We did it. Another season. We have completed it. We can lay our blades down.
We've escaped the mines. We've reached our freedom.
Austin puts another gem in his infinity gauntlet of finished seasons. Stronger than ever.
You don't want to know what's gonna happen when I get all the gems.
Uh-oh.
Y'all are fucked.
Well, see, it's fine, because I took half of the gem this season, so until my half of the gem gets, claimed, Austin will not reach full power.
Yeah, Laura and I will have to duel in front of a big beam that's shooting into the sky, opening the portal. And then
You risk
gets
your
the gem.
you risk your 9.5 gems, I risk my half a gem, it's a very fair exchange, we're gambling here.
It's only fair to do it in a Shaolin showdown as well. Something that Austin has no familiarity with, but Laura is very familiar with.
Oh, I am very familiar with Shaolin Showdown.
At this point, I've heard the phrase Shaolin Showdown more than the people who made Shaolin Showdown. The only words that I've ever heard more are Sonic the Hedgehog.
You're welcome.
So, I just did some basic maths, and I think, roughly, as an estimate, we're about 4 months in the future of the show airing, which is fun.
Yeah, I don't know if we should address this, but we're doing just kind of a loose discussion post-mortem this time, because by the time the last episode is out and people can ask questions about the season, we'll have forgotten too much. But I'm leaving the door open for there still being some kind of Q&A if we don't A your Qs tonight. But we're just gonna kind of free form it, see where the spirit moves us. There's certain questions people ask every season, and we can do those. And maybe this episode will actually be 2 postmortems. I don't know, recording now, but you in the future will be able to tell if this episode is made up of 2 different recordings or not.
It depends on how much you need to interrogate me on how much I was flying by the skin of my teeth all season.
I love that this podcast has dramatic irony because our audience knows more about what we're talking about than we do right now.
Yeah.
They often know all
They're
kinds
in the
of
future.
things. Yeah. They're having a great time. I guess the first thing to say is, did y'all have fun?
I had a lot of fun. This is a real good one.
It would be so awkward if there was just a long silence so that someone was like, not really.
You really biffed it, Austin.
Fun's a subjective thing. Who's to really say what fun is? Yeah, a lot of fun.
They teach you in law school, never ask a question you don't already know the answer to. And I've just failed my training. I should not have done that. But Leon, at the beginning, you asked, did we win? Because you did not.
Yeah, I wasn't. Yeah, I wasn't here for the entire thing. When Bill left, I didn't know how much of the season was left, but that was what I wanted to do. That was the conclusion of the arc, so I just went for it. So did you guys? Did you escape the bad?
Kind of. Here's how I would summarize what happened. At the start of the season, we tried to do peace talks in a away team, and they went very badly. And the season ended with, what if we tried peace talks again, but with much higher stakes and much more on the line? An ice cream corporation tried to murder us all to steal the teleportation/time travel machine Trizzy had made. And everything ended up pretty okay. Bill was in the epilogue insofar as Trizzy fed some frozen peas. That's how
we
went.
also fed the distorted remains of a person to the duck as well.
Shh, don't worry about that. Look, Bill is not of a mind to worry about that.
Yeah, Bill doesn't worry about anything except food. It's fine.
Yeah, they saved the day, but of course the real enemy was capitalism, which is something kind of inescapable. It became.
Do you ever think of the dark implications of the Dice Funk universe, where every season we defeat capitalism, and the next time we do another season, it's back? It's fucking Freddy Krueger. We can't kill this bitch.
Somehow Palpatine has returned. I mean, I will justify it in this case is that we defeated capitalism on Earth, and then explicitly this is a story about kind of what is called the Imperial periphery, right? Going outside of the core to where you can exploit people with the shock doctrine doing disaster capitalism to undeveloped places. So I think it's a natural extension of defeating capitalism. It's not like it just got back up again like the Undertaker.
But yeah, this has been a fun season. It's been an interesting one for me because like me and you, Austin, we talked a bit like toward the end and start of new arcs about like roughly what are you doing, roughly what am I doing? Do you need any characters right now? Can I do these? We had a sort of general gist of where we were kind of going to aim to meet up, and we sort of worked that out as we went. But like arc to arc, it was very strange being like, I know sort of where we're heading, but I have no idea what the fuck you're doing right now. I don't know what sneaky little tricks you got up your sleeve other than you've asked for a character, and I have to just ignore the fact that you've asked to use a character for this arc who hasn't come up yet, and I'm like, what you up to there?
Yeah, I think I mentioned I played the long game on Ophelia because I asked during the murder investigation arc if you had any plans for her and if it was okay if I fucked her whole situation up, which I think led you to believe she was the murderer, but that wasn't the case. I was just laying the groundwork for her later being a corporate stooge.
That arc was interesting because I was like, I genuinely believe that she's involved in this, and I was like, I'm trying not to let the fact that I know that you want her for something color that. But I do think she's a vampire, though.
Yeah, I mean, we lately touch base now and again, as you said, but we mostly stayed out of each other's way. So I think it was pretty interesting. I knew from the beginning that, some of the villainous factions that would be in play, but the whole thing with OA Team of you building up Yaush, and then handing him over to me was very interesting. I don't know if you want to talk about that, because basically you did all the legwork for the villain, and then I kind of had to take the ball into the end zone, and then at the last second, everyone turned around on their heel and was like, actually, he's my best friend and I would die for him.
Yeah, it was super interesting being able to like be involved in like beholders are like a big part of D&D that have not come up in Dice Funk really at all, and it was neat to be able to play around with that and to try and go, cool, what can I do to try and create like I wanted to come up with something that wasn't just here's a beholder, it shoots lasers at you. And I sort of my intention with it was I was like, if this ends up like being big bad of the whole season, I didn't want to put too much that like wrote you into a corner of what to do with Yaush, but I wanted to be like, there is an event that caused Yaush to be the way they are and to not be in line with standard behavior of a beholder, and to set up some like has done these things, is working towards something, and to leave enough room for you to play with. And I had to be okay at the start with like any characters I set up Austin might do whatever with, and I'm gonna be okay with that. I'm writing a setup, not necessarily writing a conclusion.
Yeah, and I'm sure we'll talk more about your DMing style in the Away Team episode, or the next recording. But for my part, I mostly did kind of self-contained. I was specifically thinking about Star Trek, and this is the part where I think Leon, your eyes can stop glazing over. And it's just I was thinking about each arc.
I was paying attention.
I know. I was thinking about each episode or each arc as kind of a Star Trek episode, where it's like, here's the problem of the week. It doesn't necessarily ever have to come up again, but we can introduce elements that someone else could use at a later date. And that was very freeing, where I didn't have to think about how is this gonna run into Laura's stuff, because it just didn't matter, or at the time it didn't matter. We can make it matter later. But Leon, how did you feel about that kind of Star Trek stuff? I tried to do that for you. You're my friend.
I enjoy it.
Be happy.
Oh, thank you very much. I enjoyed it. I liked when they were kind of individual arcs to sort of set the pacing for that kind of thing, and because those clowns, I wouldn't have. I'm sorry, I wouldn't have wanted them for the entire thing, but for like an episode where we're dealing with the clowns, that was fine. And yeah, if Bon Bobby Biblio Boo had been just like the guy throughout the entire thing, that would have been too much. So this felt like a very good quality of life decision as well. So I approve, both as a Star Trek fan and as someone who enjoys all these voices. but I love the variety.
It's funny, Bomb Bumblebee Billy Boo was only in 2 episodes, right? In the 3-episode arc, he wasn't in the second episode because I think at some point he's like, I'm going to go look around. And you're like, bye, bitch. And then he literally left. So it was a really concentrated shot of him. He's very popular with the listeners, which I'm glad. You know, you want to ride the thin line between annoying and like charmingly silly. Which I think leads us to a very popular question we get every season. Favorite NPC?
Before you made me play him, it was Mathers. And then I got anxious because I'm like, everyone's going to hate that I'm doing Mathers. So I just panicked. But Mathers is pretty dope.
Oh, I'm glad you liked him. I was worried because he didn't get as much screen time as I was hoping. Because like after he was introduced in the murder arc, the next home arc was in the evil universe, so he just wasn't there. And I was like, oh man, we're missing so much Mathers. But he got some screen time, so he's pretty fun. I like Mathers a lot.
Yeah, I'm a real sucker for a stupid little joke, and I really liked Emma with the ever evolving description. Like personality and characteristics aside, I just like that we never nailed down that appearance, and that brought me a lot of joy.
Yeah, it was very fun to build Emma together, and also we did get some incredible fan art out of it. So for that alone, the Ire Fire art is going to live on in my heart. And also she did precipitate the sickest death when he killed someone from inside with the mom.
Oh my god, yeah.
There's so many to choose from. There's Flenderzon and Henderbon, but I would.
you could do them in a couple if you want.
My favorite character is definitely the guy that was definitely there the entire time.
Oh, King Humongous.
I enjoyed him quite a bit.
The whole recording came to a screeching halt as we all lost our mind over King Humongous. Holy shit, that was incredible.
Yeah.
Nah.
Yeah, I loved it.
Honestly, I really liked Dot. I thought Dot was really interesting. Obviously, like they were like a very early on character, but I really liked the sort of like background simmering development they had to their eventual like the solution of that arc was like I just thought that was really satisfying.
I'm glad you think so. Dot is an interesting case where I was fully expecting her to die. Like, not that I wanted it to happen, but I was like, she's an antagonist. She's doing bad things. It's totally reasonable for D&D characters to smoke her at the first opportunity. And then when she was still around, I was like, okay, now we actually have to do character development. And yeah, I think it went some interesting places. The solution with the blank tadpoles is not something that is in D&D. Like, we all made that kind of together. Although it is very funny, Baldur's Gate 3 has come out, and now I've played it, and let's say there are plot points that the game also introduces into the D&D canon. I'm not accusing anyone of stealing anything.
Yeah. But like there's no polite way to put it, but she was one of those characters where there were points where I was like, we're aiming for a redemption arc, and I don't know if it's going to be pull-offable. And then it was, and I was like, hell yeah, that's great. Yeah,
very fun. So yeah, I think I really liked my work there with the NPCs. It always feels a little weird to be like, tooting my own horn, but I'm really happy with it. I think the player characters this season were all very, very good. I think it's a high bar. That we've done throughout the season. People still talk about, Veltari and King Badass and stuff. So when you step up to the plate, there's a lot of expectations. But Bill Webb is a fucking phenomenon. People love Trizzy. They love Saint Cecilia. So another very common question we get, what is your favorite moment that your character did?
I ended up just liking the way a lot of the clown arc went for C. I guess that's not a moment. That's multiple moments. I guess it would be in particular the Looney Tunes fight that happened, just because it ended in such an explosive, messy way that, like, as a storyteller, you're like, I don't really know where this goes, but I'm glad we went here because it's going to lead to something at least different than any other way I would have expected this to go.
When you say Looney Tunes fight, you mean like the duck season, rabbit season thing that ended with you getting your humor shattered?
Yeah, where it was just like, all right, I'm trying to impress a clown. How do we gotta do it? We're gonna have a fight, but we're gonna flavor this as like a prank off almost.
I'm glad everyone liked the clown so much. I went out a little bit of a limb there. I think that easily could have been like too cringe. So
No, I think it was fab. What my favorite moments for Trizzy? I really enjoyed. This was a downtime scene. Maybe between arcs 2 and 3, and it was the downtime that Trizzy spent with Wendy, working on the engine and having that sort of like bonding experience that ended up with Trizzy getting wild magicked and that sort of moment of connection. Because I think for Trizzy that was like the first real like, oh hey, I'm feeling something in common with someone else on this crew, and you seem fun. And I really liked that whole scene. I thought it played out really nice.
For me, it is actually in the clown arc. It would have to be Bill Webb making that throw of the knife into the spokes of the tricycle or unicycle.
He killed a man instantly.
Whichever one it was. But yeah, it was fun.
Oh,
I enjoyed that.
Oh, I got another. Sorry, I've got one for the clown. The clown arc had some good things. I really enjoyed the moment where Trizzy had been successfully disguised as a clown the entire like arc so far. And it's when you, Austin, turned around and pointed out that her shoes weren't squeaking. And that making everything fall apart. And I was like, I fucking love that.
Yeah, because that is one of their traits. I was literally holding the Spelljammer book where it says like what the clown's abilities are. And it does mention, they have always squeaking shoes. So I just decided to incorporate that.
I think the clown arc was my favorite of the arcs. That not just like this season, but throughout Dice Funk. I don't know why. There was like a real magic to it. I don't know how to explain it, but it was a good time. Everything flowed well.
I'm glad. It does seem like it's a favorite. I'm trying to think of my favorite of your characters' moments. Bill Webb doing power word quack to kill Bomb Bumblebee. Honestly, I was smiling so much about that. That was hilarious. I loved so much of that. All of Trizzy's downtimes, building the engine and stuff, because that was where so much of plan isn't the right word, but it was just so much of what I thought the season was going to be came off the rails was by you crushing every single roll there.
Yeah. Look, it's not my fault that I got, what was it, like 5 crits in like 3 downtimes on like trying to get that engine working.
You really nailed it. And then, Saint Cecilia, you did so many great things, but at the end there, giving your girlfriend vampirism to save her life, extremely cool and romantic. And I did not see it coming somehow. Like, it feels like one of those things in hindsight I should have, prepared for, but I just didn't think of it. And then you pulled it.
Can I ask you a question, Austin?
Absolutely.
I want to know your thought process. I know there's like a thing where it's like asking like, what would have happened if this happened is like a pointless thing because it's like, I don't know. It didn't happen. But I am very curious, like how your thought process worked as you prepared a situation. It was like, oh, we're going to travel to a different universe. And instead, because of just a couple bad rolls, you're like, all right, now this actually has to be the worst possible universe. This is the evil universe now. And I have to navigate creating all of those identities and everything. That felt like the one time where we really rolled so poorly that it derailed everything. Beyond the fact that you also intended, I think, for us to just do a heist. And instead we just bullied a wizard for a while.
Yeah, that whole thing was very funny because I was really expecting the first episode of the Bon Bobby arc to be a more elaborate Ocean's 11 heist, but like as you said, the party was very obstinate and very resistant to that suggestion. So I ended up scrapping most of it. It ended up being pretty simple. There was like 2 locks or something you had to roll for, and I think Bill Webb just like crushed them and opened the door. Not a big deal. So that part I just threw out a bunch of stuff I had in mind. But then when we went to go to the evil universe, So the original setup was that Bon Bobby was going to do the "It's a Wonderful World" or "It's a Wonderful Life" plot, right, where he shows you a bunch of different timelines where Bill Webb doesn't have intelligence and like how bad things are. So it would have been more variety. So like it could have been like, here's a timeline where the Illithids have conquered everything. Here's a timeline where the Beholders have conquered everything. Here's a timeline where the Surlon have conquered everything. Something like that. Like that's not exactly what would have happened, but there would have been like a variety of different things to show you instead of just committing to quote unquote evil universe, which is just like the worst possible. Everyone's a monster. there are no consequences for going sicko mode on these people. So I think that's the main difference. It still worked out though. I don't know, Leon, if you want to talk about your kind of idea of Bill Webb's character arc, but you made it pretty clear to me from early on.
Yeah. So there's this thing in fiction and especially in films where you try to like condense something into a few acts, where someone wants something but then finds out that they really need something else, and that's a completely cool and tried and true kind of movie to watch. People learn a lesson and that's great, but I wanted to play a character who is dealing with a trauma and wants it to go away. And then so every time like the wizard is like, but wouldn't you think about, if you think about it this way, aren't the friends you made along the way, but for me it was like no, I feel like my character has a goal. I feel like the goal is personal and also makes sense, and I played it up for laughs a bit in there and said this is like Rocky 2 actually. A victory is needed, but yeah, that's what I wanted. I wanted Bill to just be like, yeah, I would like to make my life better, according to what I am interested in, and then he did it, and I like that. I like how it worked out.
I'm gonna make a weird comparison, but I thought a lot about Bill Webb's character when I was playing a game maybe a month or so ago called Stray Gods, which is like a musical about like the Greek gods in the modern day, but specifically one of the characters in it is a god who lived through some pretty fucking traumatic shit and basically dies and gets reincarnated because each time around don't have to deal with the trauma for a bit. A couple of decades of not having to deal with the things you've seen. And there was a lot playing that where I was like, this is just Bill Webb. They've just ripped off Bill Webb, stealing from Dice Funk as all media does.
I will say the season got me to watch Star Trek. You asked as a heads up beforehand. You're like, hey, this season's going to be Star Trek inspired for the home team. And I was like, well, shit, I haven't watched any of that. So before I did anything, I was like, all right, I know vaguely like positions. It's like a doctor, there's like security people, stuff like that. And you list, I think security and engineer you said were taken. I think you may have also said science officer at some point. So I was like, all right, well, what other like positions are there? And communications was one. And I was like, all right, I'll do communications officer. And then the Star Trek I decided to watch was Deep Space Nine, which is 100% my shit. Phenomenal show. There is no communications officer in it to take any inspiration from whatsoever. No. So I think if I could go back 100% in time, I might have tried to do like a science officer like Dax or something like that. But Deep Space Nine does fucking rule, and I am very glad to have watched it now. I didn't finish it. I think I still have like a season left, and then Paramount Plus was like, all right, we're going to triple our price. And I said, no more.
I was very excited, like, to tell you, like, how little I knew about what was going on, like, while I was prepping stuff of the season. I had no idea we were basically doing Star Trek Voyager. And that was, like, the reveal of the first arc that Austin did, was like, yes, we're trapped and can't go home. I didn't even know that much. Like, I really went in as little as possible.
It's interesting because sometimes before a season starts, I'll say something in the Discord and then later say it again and everyone will be shocked. So yeah, in the pre-production, I did say like, should we do Deep Space Nine or Voyager? And I think a couple people expressed mild opinions. And then I said, maybe we do kind of both, where you're like on a Deep Space Nine like vessel, but then it gets Voyagered. I think I said something like that.
So here's the thing. You did that, and then you explicitly said, "Oh no, we're not doing it the Voyager thing." Like, you at one point explicitly said it wasn't Voyager, and I was like, "Oh well, Voyager's my favorite one. That's a bit disappointing." And then it was Voyager.
Okay, maybe we got our wires crossed. But this happens. This is when you're corralling like eight different ADHD nerds together trying to get
I mean, that's
stuff like that done. Yeah, it can get a little complicated. But
that just meant I had a fun little surprise when it turns out, we're doing my best one. We're doing Voyager.
yeah, the Star Trek stuff. Some of it was a little on the nose. I don't know. I was like, I'm just doing Q. I'm just doing Mirror Universe stuff. I was a little worried people would be like, you didn't try hard enough. But it seems like it went over well. I will say that before I brought Laura, onto the DMing side and stuff, kind of what I had planned, because, like Skitch brought to me the 4-myth idea, and it was like, I want my character to have like a shape-shifting weapon or whatever, and I was like, okay, this is kind of like this universe's lightsaber. If away team is going to take inspiration from Star Wars, then maybe you have like a rival, like a Kylo Ren who also has a shape-shifting weapon, and that could be like your rival. And like none of that stuff happened at all. So even though I knew the basic shape of the DMing stuff you were bringing to the table, like nothing played out how I had in mind at all. So we were surprising the shit out of each other constantly.
That's the thing with DMing is like you don't know what you make your own plans, and the players are going to wildly shift what that does, and the dice are going to wildly shift that, and then you've got a second DM who's also dealing with, I have a plan, but it might just go off the rails. There was a lot of, it worked it out as we went, but I think I was surprised at how well the both pairs of arcs sort of had symmetry with what was going on in them several times.
Yeah, there was a couple of themes, and we explicitly acknowledged this, but there were some like motifs that recurred across both sides. The idea of optics, like both of the literal eyes that beholders have, and also like how you're seen, both recurred a lot. And transformation, clowns, werewolves, vampires, stuff like that. So it wasn't planned, but some of it seems like it was more thought out than maybe it really was.
It's looking back, we couldn't have made it look more planned out. It's just how it goes. We're on a good vibe.
Another question here. I just pulled up a list of old questions to see some really common ones. This is at Just Gazer asks, "Is there anything you wish you'd had a chance to do during the season there wasn't time for? Anything you were trying to build to that you got swerved on or didn't get a chance?"
I was trying to throw more knives, actually. I feel like I only got about 6 or 7 knife throws in there. I would have liked a little bit more of that.
Honestly, the last roll you made to crit to bullseye a terrorist with a bomb with a knife, fucking awesome.
Oh.
That was so good.
Yeah, the dice were with me this season.
Yeah, I mean,
it all worked out.
Even after you left, whenever someone crit, I'd be like, oh, damn, they're going Bill Webb mode.
Yeah.
I don't have like a favorite crit for Cecilia. My favorite crits are just all Bill Webb crits. Like every one of them is just a treasure. Like it was truly just phenomenal energy. It was like, God damn, this duck is rolling. I love this.
Yeah, I mean, if Bill had often gotten a lot of crit fails, and the dice were not with me this season, the character I think would have ended up being perceived very differently as a more like helpless duck. But everything just kind of shook out.
You were such a badass. It was like, no, I actually see why they made this duck the security officer. He fucks.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh my.
Anything else anyone missed out on doing?
Not necessarily the thing I'm upset didn't happen, but one thing that was in my head as could be where Trizzy's story ends, and I'd have been super okay with and kind of into, would have been Trizzy ending up having to be the ship AI.
Whoa, yeah, that's cool.
I think there was definitely some potential room for, hey, the only way to replace the bad AI in the ship is to just plug Trizzy right in there. And I'm glad that that's not where it ended. I think it's good that Trizzy had an ending that involved being around people and making choices to stay around people and connect with them willingly. But I think the version where, the ship AI is just Trizzy could have been fun.
Yeah, that feels like a consequence for like a mixed success. Like when you and Buford rolled to like, overwrite the AI, you both got, I think, like 36 or something preposterous.
Yeah,
So
it's if there'd been a really bad roll there, that was the other ending. I was like, if the dice dictate it, that's where I will go.
yeah, interesting. Quinn?
Yeah, I mean, there were coming from previous seasons, definitely different challenges that came up from doing sort of a two-team season. In that, like, there was a much more limited amount of time to get character details out, which I definitely worried about. I was like, shit, have I even captured like Saint Cecilia's story at all? Like, I worried throughout the whole thing. I was like, I don't think I'm getting this. There's just a different sort of thing there. And I remember recording something with Dan for his character. It was just a scene between Saint Cecilia and Buford to try to like get over, like hit some bullet points in case I was like, because there was no idea when the season would end. There was like, you had like kind of told us like 4 arcs for each team and then something. So there was always a worry that was like, we got to the end of like the 4th arc and then it was like, all right, we're going to shoot a laser at a bad guy and then it's going to be epilogue time. So we filmed a scene together that I think we ended up not using, but I did like the idea of putting something like that out there of just like, here's where the two teams meet and mingle kind of in between things as like a fun little extra.
Oh yeah, I forgot about that. I pitched this idea where we could have a whole episode that is like a bottle episode, like one of those, like the Citadel DLC for Mass Effect, where it's just the characters hanging out. And I was like, let's get a scene of Buford and Cecilia and like Trizzy and Max, or Wendy and Bill, just like characters who never spoke to each other, and just get them hanging out. And I guess we just didn't get the schedules and the timing and stuff, and the plot had already moved on, and then suddenly Bill was a duck again, and then Wendy got her wings cut off, and it was just like, it just didn't happen. But yeah, that was cool, and we did get some of that stuff. Trizzy and Buford ended up spending a lot of time together, and then in the final arc, Max and Cecilia. So we got some cross pollination, but there's a lot of opportunities, by separating the teams that we kind of missed out on. And as you said, we didn't know for a fact what we were going to end up doing is combining the two teams for the finale arc. I think you're probably going to hear us say stuff like,
Yeah.
I don't know what's going to happen from here. I don't know how many arcs are left, blah, blah, blah.
Yeah. Like, there were debates that happened about things like, how, like, do we combine the teams and do a combined arc? And if so, like, do we power the weaker team up or the higher team down? And we had plans for how both of those might work. And yeah, there was a lot of... Until we reached that point, I don't think we knew what the answer was going to be.
Yeah, I was actually lobbying to bring away team down because Max had lost Formith and Buford had a bunch of shit confiscated. So I was like, they just both totally plausibly lost a bunch of their utility, and I think it would totally make sense. But then it was pointed out to me, and I think this was correct, that if we really want to commit to Beholders as a legitimate threat, they simply will raffle stomp anyone.
Yeah. Like, this was my argument for leveling the weaker players up, was that we've established a villain that is balanced for those higher level players, and specifically we would have to do some weirdness of, like, level it, like, bringing down the power of a threat that's already been established, which would have been more tricky to keep that feeling the right level of threat, I think.
Yeah. And as we've discussed before, it turned out that Yash wasn't the final villain. There's all those scenes of him just being an utter shit to you as he's dying in Doc's room or whatever. And I was like, I'm really establishing that this person sucks, so you won't feel bad when you have to cave his head in. But then you just kept talking until you built a rapport, and then it was too late. We had already crossed the Rubicon.
It's the D&D curse. You leave a villain in a room long enough and someone will be like, that's my friend now.
Absolutely. Another question here from Ari Ledoux. Favorite time you rolled terribly?
The clown arc? I rolled like shit for a while. I like looked at it. I rolled a crit to cook Wallace a hamburger, and I don't think I crit again until the 4th arc of the season.
Holy shit. Yeah, you got I think you failed the roll to resist the spell friendship that Lisa did on you, which really changed your whole entire
That
life.
was a great crit. A crit fail. I want more trolls in my life. I want more troll constellations, making everything so much more difficult.
Oh yeah, that's another thing. We'll get back to the constellations because that's a uniquely home team mechanic, and this is the home team epilogue. But yeah, favorite bad roll?
I can't think of any, like, it's not been, this season didn't have a lot for Trizzy of, like, botch that had, like, a big old consequence.
What about favorite wild magics? And some of those had consequences.
Oh. Favorite wild magic, I think, has to be the lightsaber mop. Absolute obliteration. It was one of those rolls where I looked at it as it happened, and I went, I'm going to read this out, and no one is going to believe me that this was by happenstance. It was too perfect.
There's a kind of roll where I could hear Austin start to smile because he's like, gruesome fatality, yes!
Yeah, we're gonna talk about Wendy's wild magic on the other recording, so I can't wait to hear all of the extremes on that wild magic table you did. But Trizzy had some good ones.
You wait to find out about 1 in 100. They would have been something.
But yeah, as far as the bad rolls, one that sticks out to me was during the clown arc, which take a drink every time we mention clown arc. There was a fight I really thought was supposed to be easily winnable, where you just fought 2 random guards and you just kept missing. Bill missed, Trizzy missed, Bill missed, Trizzy missed. Like,
was this the one in the circus tent?
No, this is this is what got you captured and brought to the tent.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. I think it was like all that you needed to do is hit one more time and you would have knocked that guard out, and it was just like 3 or 4 misses in a row, and then I think they crit you, and then I just like they take you captive and drag you over to the tent, and that was just really unexpected.
Was that influenced at all by the troll? Austin, can we talk about the troll?
Absolutely, yeah. What do you think about the constellations? This is a mechanic I came up with. I try to throw a little, wrench in there every once in a while. Things like, conduits from those earlier seasons, or the body parts that you got in last season, stuff like that. What do you think about these? Was this fun?
I really liked them, despite my refusal to make them a part of the other half of the season.
I mean, they could have been out there. It's just like right now,
Oh yeah, I was just like, that's one extra thing for me to think about. I'm not adding more to my workload, but I thought they were very good.
I love them. I mean, like, I know from like a normal person's perspective, you're like, oh man, so many of these hurt. But my mind, I love like extra challenges thrown in there, and they weren't all bad. Like, they eventually got disgustingly good. Like, I think by the end, I was like, I had like a plus 18 on a lot of my skill checks. Because of like the tadpole, but I just love stuff that makes things more chaotic, and I thought like the first 2 really embodied that so well. The troll and I think the rust monster was the one that made all of our ACs go down when we got hit.
Yeah, it's the same reason I enjoyed playing characters like Leah Moira in, what was it, season 5 maybe. I like when it's just like, here is a thing that's just gonna make this arc get progressively worse as we go. It's like, yes, make me suffer just a little.
That actually brings up a thought. Like, how did you all feel about your characters in like a build thought process to the role playing aspect? Like, how did you feel about like your actual characters' numbers and stuff, and how it helped you or fought against you telling a story?
I think mine worked out quite well, in that I was very good at one very specific thing, which was doing intelligence rolls to make an engine for a ship, and everything else I was terrible at. And I think the dice worked well with, I'm good at the thing I'm meant to be good at, and everything else is a real gamble. And I think that worked out alright.
It was a terror every time Trizzy had to roll some kind of charisma check.
Oh, God,
because that
yeah.
was like a part you created into the character. Like she's not like a people person. And it's, I think, such a fun thing to sit there and be like, my character says something, and it's like, all right, now roll. It's like, yeah, fuck.
Yeah, charisma is one of my favorite stats to play very high or very low. There is no fun to be found in middle of the road in charisma in this game. You either want to be suave as fuck and everyone loves you, or you just want to be like, I'm going to say something really smart, roll the dice, and then be like, oops, I accidentally insulted someone without realizing mid-sentence. Woo!
I had realized, or I guess it was intentional from the beginning. Like, I couldn't think of like a character class for like a communications officer. I thought eventually like bard, but I was like, I feel like there's a bard every season. So I was like, let me try something a little different.
Yeah, because they're the best.
They are. But I was also trying not to just play into something I think I've done too many times. So I went with rogue, and then I built one of the worst rogues ever. It was a rogue who was bad at sneaking, who eventually couldn't pick locks, who didn't do great damage in combat. It was really against the grain in a lot of ways.
You were a better rogue than Cortazar was, whatever Cortazar is.
A champion, a beautiful boy, whom I love. That's very funny. Leon, what did you think about being a ranger?
When I think about being a ranger, I liked that it mostly just felt like being a fighter. And because I didn't want to learn the magic. I know it's not that complicated. I know it's not at all. But I gotta tell you, I'm playing Baldur's Gate 3 right now, and when I cast a spell, I'm like, why can't I do that again? Because I literally have to learn the rules now. I have to learn how spells work in D&D now.
It's actually, this is active punishment. Austin designed this game as a way to trick you into learning the magic system in D&D.
No, never gonna happen.
Sorry, Austin. Those millions are gonna go to waste.
No, it's actually funny. My character said like she. Never mind. I don't want to keep talking about a video game. I'll that'll be a thing.
No, we should talk about Baldur's Gate a little bit, because it actually, weirdly, the timing worked out. They released a game about mind flayers while I was doing a season about mind flayers. It's not like the most shocking thing. They are iconic, but literally in the first episode of the show, when I reiterated like, oh, the main thrust of this season is the Illithids trying to become part of society. I could hear you in the background Googling, what is mind flayer?
Yeah, we
Right.
It literally went from, we might have to explain what a mind flare is because that might not be common knowledge, to, oh yeah, probably the biggest video game of the year is about them, don't worry.
So now you're an expert in mind flayers, right, Leon?
Yeah, they are tadpoles, and then they go in you, and if you and then you become one. That's the ball game. I'm apparently it's different in the game. There's some sort of weird circumstances, but don't spoil it because I'm only like level 2 cleric in there right now. But having fun with that as well.
Yeah, it's a great video game. I would love to talk about it, honestly. We could do more post-mortem, but is there any other questions you all have for each other, or anything like that? Like, what do you think about your character interactions? I guess I'll just set the scene here, which is one of my biggest frustrations with, some seasons of this show and other D&D or other tabletop podcasts I've listened to, is when people have a really great sense of their own character, but they don't really interact with each other's character, if that makes sense. It's like, I want to know what each player character thinks about every other player character. I want to be able to describe that relationship. So I'm curious how you all felt about your interactions.
I liked the idea, I think that was broached like at Take a Drink at the end of the Clown arc, where our characters were just collectively cleaning up the mess. And we kind of had a conversation that sort of established, like, yeah, we're work pals. Like, we at this point, we're the home team. We work together. But, like, there is, like, a mutual respect that, hey, after this, let's go to Andre's and get a drink or something like that. And I kind of like that. There was sort of, like, a unique flavor to, like, the work friends kind of angle.
Yeah. And I think the work friends angle is a hard one to get right, to not have it just feel like these people don't care about each other's presence. Like, I think we walked that line of, these people do not dislike each other's company. There are things they enjoy about time together, even if that is, like, they probably wouldn't have chosen each other. For me specifically, I really liked the ways that Bill Webb and Trizzy sort of interacted early on, and how that sort of fit into the later arcs as Trizzy's journey goes on, because Bill Webb was a, like, I am direct, I am here to do the job, I will... communication doesn't have to be more in-depth than that if you don't want it to be, and I think that was a very good first person for Trizzy to be interacting with and spending time with, because there wasn't a, like, oh no, I have to know more about social things. I can just be like, nah, we're doing the job, that's what we do. That I think helped Trizzy get where she ended up.
I want to continue the Bill Webb love, which is to say, like, I would not have made the decision I made for Cecilia if not for Bill Webb. So when Bill Webb decided to not become, like, stay human and go back to being a duck, the crisis for Cecilia at that point was whether or not to take this blank tadpole and become an illithid. And it was after the whole arc that I was like, after seeing what Bill Webb's done, she can't take this tadpole. Like, she just saw somebody who specifically chose to stay the way that they believe they are, and they're not wrong. So, like, in my mind, I was like, "There's no way Saint Cecilia can take this tadpole because she doesn't see that she has any need to change." So I was very firmly motivated by that character decision.
Cool. I think Bill was better at interacting with the environment, but that was just I don't know. I just played him as, like, a bit morose, so that probably had something to do with that. And also, he's a cop. He's not, like, gonna be cool. So I went my how I decided to interact with people was, like, trying to think of, like, all right, what would someone who's just, like, a little bit of a prick would say, and but
it's very difficult. We've had characters on the show before who tried to do that, and were too far on the other side of the line, and we're just unpleasant.
Yeah,
so
I went with the alignment true neutral for that reason. He's not going to, like, actively try to sabotage the team, but he's like, okay, look, I have a badge.
You landed in the correct place on that line, where I think Trizzy's response was like, I can tell you kind of don't like me, but that just makes me like you more. You don't mean it. You're great. You're fine.
Oh, Trizzy. Oh, no. That's not good. You brought up that scene where everyone was cleaning up after the clown party, and it reminded me that was one of the longest setup and punchlines in the show. Was during that cleanup, Bill Webb found some of the bozo flower, just like some seeds and stems, and then literally in the finale, the final boss used that to get clown powers. So I don't know if anyone else caught that. That's where that came from. After Bill Webb picked up that stuff, it was like 30 episodes later.
Jesus.
Yeah.
I will say one more thing about Bill being a cop. He's not a cop anymore because he couldn't possibly comprehend it. So Bill did the only thing that a cop should do, and that is stop being a cop.
The only good cop is a duckling.
Yeah.
We've touched on cops in a number of seasons. You can tell where our politics are on that, but I like that we finally had the quote unquote good cop, which is you should stop. So
absolutely.
We touched a little bit on the decision not to Ceramorphosis with Cecilia. I want to wrap back around to that because when I said what the premise of the season was, that they're on this Illithid peace mission. Part of the reason I made Wendy a Mind Flayer is because no one else was one, and I was I don't know, maybe a little too focused, arguably, on getting that perspective. I didn't want it to seem like it was a bunch of Earth people dictating someone else's whole shit to them. That would have felt bad. So I was on team, please, Saint Cecilia become a squid. I don't know how you feel about that. I mean, I really liked how Cecilia's story went down, so I don't even say I would change it. I'm just curious if you have any other insight into that choice and then, how that all played out, because I think both would have been really cool.
Yeah, I mean, so I had an idea for what was going to happen if Saint Cecilia took it. I think I intentionally created like a vampire character because I was like, all right, I want to play into this Illithid mission, but I don't want to. I think I was too worried you would say no to playing an Illithid. I think because I broached the idea in a way previous season, you were like, I don't know how to balance that. So in my mind, I was like, all right, I can't play an Illithid, but I'll play something similar. Like the whole concept being like, oh, I need to eat brains. Like what's something else I can have? Like, a character who's drawn to blood. And we've already kind of established like that's not a challenge in the Dice Funk universe. Something synthetic can be made. So like, all right, here's somewhat of a parallel example. But with the actual tadpole, the thought process is like, all right, this is like a big decision to have to make, primarily because one of the things it would do would kind of create a new brain, that wouldn't have Saint Cecilia's same like conditions. You wouldn't be as ADHD or anything like that. And I, first and foremost, have so much trouble comprehending even what that would be. Someone with ADHD, I'm like, what would it be like to have a normal brain? But I basically thought, all right, if she takes this, she's going to suddenly shoot up in levels. I was going to redesign the whole character sheet, and she was going to be a paladin. And it would be like, oh, because she'd suddenly remember all these old skills she's forgotten, and like Saint Cecilia is actually like a name gained from back when she was like a holy crusader of some kind or something like that. It was going to be real out there. But then because I have a bad brain, I was like, oh, and also because now she remembers everything, she's haunted by all the grief of the constant like millennia she's lived without friends. So she's just going to be constantly crying. I think that's something you eventually added to Yaush. But I was like, yeah, she'll just be crying nonstop, basically. And I worried I wasn't going to be able to make that very fun. I was probably going to have to redesign a couple things. But after the Bill Webb decision, I was like, nah, I think it's the right decision that she stays this way.
Oh, yeah, I forgot about that. I asked permission. Can I have Yaush constantly be like weeping blood as he's dying, which is like an idea you had. But yeah, if Trizzy had a possible end where she became the ship's AI and you had a possible end where you became a squid, was there any other possible ending for Bill Webb on the table? Was it just like turn me back into a duck, or I'm rage quitting your stupid show, Austin?
No, absolutely not. No, if Bill were put in a position where it was like, okay, you're like this forever, Bill would ride it out for the rest of the quest and then fly off into the sun or something. Something along.
Oh my god!
Yeah.
Wait, into the sunset, as in leave, or into the sun?
No. Bill can't handle living this way. So this was the correct way to go.
That's so dark.
I wouldn't have done. By the way, I would not have done that on. By the way, I'm not saying I was planning on doing that in the show. That's not what I'm going to say at all. I'm saying that the plan was always for Bill to do that. If, like, at the end of the season, if he was still a duck with human intelligence, he would be like, I don't want to be a cop anymore. I don't want to do anything anymore. I'm going to figure out what I'm going to do with the rest of my life and then fly off into space. Yeah, basically, I didn't really plan ahead for something like that.
Yeah. A question we often get is about the cast changing. So I will say, Laura's been here rock solid since season 3. We can always count on you. But this was a return for both Quinn and Leon. How did that feel? And how is it going to feel to ride off into the sunset, Leon, and not have to worry about this shit anymore?
Glad I did it one more time. This is the last season of Dice Funk for me. In case anyone listening to this is expecting me back next season, that's not going to be it. I really enjoy playing D&D and hanging out, but something about doing it for an audience is just like stressful for me in a little way, and I don't think I can do it anymore. But I'm glad I did this. It was fun. I hope everyone enjoyed my death.
It is a very different experience when you know there are people listening, and that it's not just D&D with the people you're doing D&D with. It's D&D that has to be a consumable product.
Yeah. You characterizing it as a little stressful, I think, is underselling it. It's giving me an anxiety disorder. So,
Oh god, yeah.
no, I mean, I really am so grateful that I get to do it. But it's difficult in a different way than, say, digging ditches, is what I often say. But yeah, thank you very much, Leon, for coming back. We loved having you.
Yeah, no problem. Yeah, it was fun.
Quinn, should I have edited in like entrance music, like wrestling, when you returned, or?
No, I mean, some of the best pops really come from no musical fanfare, just the person showing up in the ring. So that's kind of the angle I wanted to go with. And then, then the next time I actually have my first match, then yeah, that's where you play Sonic the Hedgehog Escape from the City or whatever my theme song is. It was very fun to be back. I got right back into the rhythm of constantly stressing about every decision I make and panic. But one of the most blessed parts of all this is the fact that I don't know what anyone said because we are so far in the future of everything. One of the greatest panics was like the immediate feedback of everything. We would record, it would be edited, it would be out that weekend. I went through this entire season having almost no idea what happened. Like it's hard to stress how much of like in advance this season was. I think by the time listeners had started hearing the clown arc, we were done with like the different teams and we had like merged them together. Like there was a huge gap between what the audience heard and what we had already done. So there was no time to like panic about decisions or anything like that. It was very, I guess, creatively liberating. Just be like, I'm going to put this out there. And if people like it, awesome. If they don't, so be it,
Yeah. I agree. It's been nice, that aspect this season. I've had seasons where like it's specifically the fact that in some past seasons an episode will have aired before we record the very next episode, meaning that it can be hard not to take on board feedback and instantly apply it. Like literally before the story continues, you already know how the last chapter was consumed, and it's been definitely, like, for this being my first season where I co-DM'd, it was really liberating to have no fucking clue what people thought of my DMing. Like, particularly because of the fact that, like, the first home arc was airing, like, by the time that, like, my first episode aired, I was already, like, 4 episodes into recording, that other half of the campaign. So I was like, I'd already gotten a pretty good lead going. I have since seen feedback has been apparently very positive. It's been really nice this last week, like, finally going, okay, what are people thinking about it? And apparently people have really liked my DMing, so I'm like, yay, I did okay. But I didn't know for the longest time what anyone thought, and that was a nice relief.
Can I note how dumb I am?
Just in general, or?
Yeah, like, just take a note about it. I realized, so I created Saint Cecilia. I was like, oh, what about a fun ADHD vampire? And I think I mentioned in like a Spew Punk episode, like when I was thinking of her ADHD, I was thinking more specifically like Joa's ADHD, which is very like outgoing and friendly. I'm like a full on introvert kind of generally outside of like podcasts and things like that. So I was like, oh, let me do that. And then let me like tell a story of like a vampire who constantly forgets things in a way like that I do, just hyper exaggerated, like take my normal ass forgetting things and then amplify it like 200%. And then I realized like, shit, this is like halfway through the season. I was like, this isn't super relatable to most people. I don't think most people have like giant brain gaps the same way that I do. And I really worried if I had like made an enormous mistake. I was like, will anyone be able to understand this character's plight? Because it sounds nonsensical when I think about it to somebody who's like not constantly forgetting where everything is and who they've talked to and what's been going on for the past 10 years of their life.
Now, it made perfect sense to me, but that's probably because I also have ADHD, and therefore it just seemed like, yeah, that's just how people are, right?
Saint Cecilia is going to hopefully be super popular with the ADHD crowd.
Yeah, sometimes we're doing what's called genre fiction, right? It is like an adventure, tropes and stuff that don't always jive with all the character archetypes. So, like, if you wanted to make a kind of depressive character who's more like you, Quinn, one episode into every arc, you would have retreated to your quarters and like gotten to bed, and then they wouldn't have seen you.
My character has a poor rule, so they pull their cover over their head and refuse to communicate the rest of the night.
Yeah, which I don't know if that's exactly what people want in a podcast. It's more honest, perhaps, but yeah, it's hard to.
Occasionally they shoot a fireball out.
Yeah. So you can't always make every peg fit in every hole, but I think you did a pretty good job getting across those ideas. I definitely, the stuff with the memory definitely came up a bunch, and we had some good discussions about it. It's hard to fully inhabit the mind space there, but it was ambitious. I'll definitely say that. You didn't show up and say like, I am human, a fighter. I do stab.
That's what next season. That's what I'm playing.
I was thinking earlier today, like, when did I first think of Bill Webb? Because this has been like a character I've been considering playing for a while, and I can't remember what the impetus for it was. To me, it's just two puns. And then I made something else out of it, but I can't remember the exact moment. But that's all it was, and then it just became a character with feelings.
Yeah, I mean, this is a long time coming. If anything, there's a lot of pressure on me to deliver for you the story Bill Webb deserves. But you mentioned this in season 2 or 3, because for years people have been asking me, "Where's Bill Webb? Where's Bill Webb?" So, if anything, I'm really happy with how he delivered. It would have been devastating if I had failed you, but I think we did a pretty good job.
I thought it went well. I had one more character that I was planning to do that I guess I won't now, called Abraca Bastard, and he's a street magician who really is just a thief. He doesn't have any magic, and he says "Look into my hat," and then he just pulls out an old timey gun.
I remember Abraca Bastard. I don't know if you ever said this on recording, but you definitely talked about this in a possible season 2 idea. Because I think at first you wanted to play Ronaldo again, and then we eventually found our way to Violet Skittles Unicorn. But Abraca Bastard definitely came up at some point.
Okay. Well, feel free to use him as an NPC.
Now you're saying a lot of "I'm not going to return," but I know you're a wrestling fan. That's a business of never say never. So
that's true. But I feel like this season was my Shawn Michaels return. Oh shit, he came back another time for the DX thing. Damn it, that one doesn't work. Well, whatever it is, this really is it. I don't want to give anyone the impression that I'm returning, but this was fun.
Yeah, usually during the Post-Mortems we tease next season, but who knows? The world could be so different by then. Who knows? If you want any teases, you should listen to the other show we do, Spew Punk, where we often tease. When it gets closer, we'll probably drop some stuff about that. But
the only other thing I was going to say was a stupid idea I had. Because Saint Cecilia's name is a Foo Fighters song. I just wanted to name a character after a Foo Fighters song. And one of my original ideas was I was going to just brutally crowbar force a Foo Fighters lyric into every episode until I realized that was a really bad idea, and I decided not to do it. But I like to think about the world where somebody's like, "Cecilia, can you come down here?" And I'm like, "I'm not your monkey wrench," or whatever.
You really got your revenge, though, by having almost Cecilia's death scene be 10-15 minutes of the quotes from the Regal Cinemas advertisement in a thing I hope really perplexes everyone.
Truly, spur of the moment thing. It was like just a stupid idea I had as I was like on a drive with you somewhere.
I don't know how widespread this is. Laura, do you have any idea what we're talking about?
I don't think I know what you're talking about. What did you say, Regent Cinemas?
Do you know like the Nicole Kidman like Heartbreak Feels Good at a Place Like This ad that they play before AMC movies?
No, we don't have AMC theaters here.
Then there's absolutely no way that you know the worst version that a AMC competitor Regal has.
Okay, yeah, no.
I'm so sorry.
Perfect.
No, we have Odeon over here. Ooh.
Wait, what is that?
That's our cinema chain.
Oh. Leon, do you know what we're talking about? The Regal Cinemas movie quotes advertisement?
Regal Cinema. Oh, you mean like when you go in there and the quotes pop up and you try to figure out, or do you mean something else?
So right before a movie at Regal Cinemas plays, like after they've done the trailers and like the advertisement for Coke or whatever, they have like a Regal commercial. And the Regal one is like themed around great movie lines, and it's just a bunch of like people try to do a normal theater interaction, but they use a bunch of famous quote unquote movie quotes as they do it.
Okay. Yeah, no, I go to AMC, so I guess I missed out on that.
You get the Nicole Kidman one.
Oh, yeah, it's
You
beautiful.
with your silly American cinema chains. We over here have real cinemas like View, Odeon, Everyman, Cineworld.
Whoa.
That's the real cinema chains. Ooh.
Cineworld? That
Yeah, Cineworld.
it's a whole world of sin. I would love that.